And we're recording. Hello, YouTube. This is Dr. Robert. I'm finally putting videos out. I'm just going to do a quick walk through the shop today, get this posted, and we'll see what people think about it. We will be making more videos as often as we can make them and post them. It depends on how projects progress along, when stuff shows up, so on and so forth. But let me turn the camera around. We're going to walk through the shop and take a look at current projects, things that are finished and things that are just beginning. All right. Now, we see there is a 1996 Volkswagen GTI, and yes, that is a VR6 under the hood. This little car needs the engine basically regasketed. It's leaking oil, coolant, just about everything it possibly can leak. So we're going to rip that apart and hopefully get it going, turn it into a little SCCA Solo 1, Solo 2 car with a full interior, because it's totally loaded, and I want to kind of keep that the way it is. Now, we've got one customer's bike back there for storage. I have another customer's bike back here for, well, this one over here we're having more issues with it. Still need to fine tune it. Aftermarket pipes are giving us some problem with the jetting. We've got this GS850G we're just about finished with. A Chinese, scary as all hell, trike. That thing just frightens me terribly. 1958, I think, Chris Craft Sea Skiff. Big old wooden boat with a V8 motor going into it. Yes, V8 power in a wooden boat. That seems safe. All right, well, that's the way they did it back in the day. All right, coming into our main shop, we have a Harley Davidson for basically a top-end rebuild and hopefully be able to save the heads because somebody, when putting, again, aftermarket slip-ons, the stock exhaust didn't build the proper or put in the proper mounting bracket, so they kind of broke off. Next to it is a custom Harley. We have to set up with lighting and finish wiring it. Chinese scooter, I'll probably build that into some sort of fun little, fast little 150cc. Yes, Street Mate, two-stroke. That is Spalifo up there. We'll get back into Spalifo with an expansion chamber and probably a 70cc kit to give a little more pep to it. The Sabre 750, of course, my motorized bicycle. Another bike in for storage for the winter. They'll be staying here. Panning around. Oh, here we go with Sapphire. Sapphire is my next recumbent motorcycle. I would very much like to have this into a full roller. By, I want to say, late next week, and then get it wired, get everything else, the side crash bars built into it, and get this thing rolling. Now let's figure out what I'll do after that. Monoshock mounted up here along the spine, coming back to the rear wheel. That should be pretty cool. Using a Kawasaki Ninja monoshock with all the necessary hardware mounted right up in there. That should go quite nicely. Now, coming over here, we have our 1967 Yamaha L2. This is going to end up being a little cafe bike of some sort. I love the patina, but I'd really love to see this in fresh paint too. So I'm kind of torn on what to do with it. The first thing to do, however, is get it up and running. So I've got a fresh set of rings and a hole in the cylinder yet. Clean out the crankcase. Rebuild the alternator, new points, new condenser. Yeah, you know the routine if you're familiar with it. This one, it's going to be sitting on the shelf for a minute. This is my motorized bicycle with a sidecar rig. I will need to tear it apart and build proper adjustments so I can align the sidecar to the bike itself better. Now, panning over here, I've got a GY6 150cc scooter. Now, this motor has less than 2,000 miles on it. The poor fellow that had it crashed it. And instead of learning how to ride a motorcycle, he got a bigger one and then killed himself. I regret to say that. So, looking at what this thing is, I'd like to see this turn into my next, green machine, essentially. If you're familiar with a child's toy, and the Parker Brothers actually built one with a Harley motor. So it's a front wheel drive with two trailing wheels for your steering. And there are my trailing wheels. There's one, there's two. Big old ATV tires. And you see a pile of steel here, which was my friend's old weight bench. Of course, when he pawned it off on me, Yeah, kind of cool to have a weight bench around, but unfortunately there was no hardware to put it together. So I basically have some light steel, you know, thick enough wall. Yeah, I think that'll be just enough. Cap that off, of course, for strength. This will have to be cut off. And then we flip this bad boy around, get everything kind of lined up, and we bolt together and slide her up in there. So we have frame to this frame. I'll have to make a brace here, seated right here, and then off the back, we're going to use this portion to build our rear axle. All right, so we have this nice little pivot here. Have to make our steering linkage, and then can you see where that turns there? You know, that'll give us left and right steering, a couple of levers, throttle. And I am seriously considering doing something a little odd with this one. And that's a left, by moving this foot peg up to where I want it, I'm hoping, I'm gonna have to change this exhaust. It's gonna be hitting right at you, or have something that cuts it over. But in any case, we'll look into that later. But when I move these pegs, they'll sit up right here. I'd like to have a master cylinder on one side and the master cylinder on the other. This will allow me to brake one wheel or the other or both, and then the handbrake will actually be what is now the front wheel or the drive wheel. So yes, this section here will be cut off, exposing the motor. Makes me wonder if I really need the cooling shields for the motor. It'd be nice to have that exposed, but this works so very well for keeping the motor nice and cool and even, and temperatures nice and even. Very likely it's going to stay on. I'll just figure out a nice way of jazzing it up or making it look cool. But coming back, yes, our big tires, and oh, there's a Virago that I'm still waiting for the customer to pick up. And let's delve in further into the shop. We've got a couple cheap Chinese scooters that are giving us nothing but headaches. Go fig. We have stretch here, which I'll have to get back to work on. Taillights are in for it now, so it's time to get working on some of the fiberglass work. Start building the, oh, that's one thing I forgot on that one over there. Let's just go back real quick. Because I have the materials, and it's a matter of a few additional parts, I am going to be taking possibly this air tank. I might just use PVC because it's lighter. I don't need that much air pressure. But it will be getting air tanks mounted on the rear axle along with the air compressor. This will allow me to fire, you know, missiles, Nerf type missiles. I'll show you how I'm going to make those and lay them out when I get closer to that part of the project. So yeah, probably an electronic fire, air chamber, you know, push button, fire a missile. Nice. And okay, this is another one of our slightly more difficult ones. Burnt up the clutch badly, and now she's having a hell of a time shifting. Check the shift linkage on the other side here. You can see in here we've got the shift drum and, you know, linkage. She just will not. I'm afraid that maybe one of the shift forks is bent now, so I'm afraid that I'm going to have to tear the motor down. We'll be tearing in that next week or so, I'm assuming. On this lift, we have Franken Scooter. We're trying to resurrect him from the dead. It's cranking over, new battery in it, but as you can see, I have this beautiful tangled mess up here. You know, just a hideous wiring harness. And I'm either going to have to repair it, and as you can see, it's one thing I don't like about Chinese and some of the older stuff. There are no seals on these connectors. So in water or moisture, they corrode pretty quickly and easily. You can end up killing the ignition because of it. And, you know, it's going to need some TLC to get this thing working properly. And I'm hoping I don't have to totally rewire it. But, well, we'll see. I know I'm going to have to do a lot of repair on the wiring harness if I just say keep it around. We have a GS 1100G. Which finally figured out what's going on with the carburetors, and that was just my frustration, didn't let me see what was going on properly. It's been a long, frustrating year so far. And then back in here, you see a big open space. What happens in here? Well, I'll tell you what. If you want to know what happens in this big open space, you have to stop by at 6 p.m. on a Friday night. No, it's nothing weird or obnoxious or mean. It's just something I do back here. But you got a come here and check it out for yourself if you wanna know. As you can see, we got a few more bikes in for, one more bike in for storage, and then all project bikes. Kawasaki CSR 650, I'm hoping to have that running and sold this spring. The KZ 650, I'd like to actually have that running by next spring and redone. I don't know if that's going to come together because we will have a decent amount of other projects to worry about, as well as obviously to get, turn the camera on again. Hello again there, YouTube. This winter we're going to have to focus on getting obviously customers' vehicles through so we can, pay our rent and eat. I like eating. It's a good thing. I mean, and I'm a damn good cook, so if I don't have what I need to cook, it gets a little scary. Because then I get hungry and mean. Alrighty. Oh, one other little thing. See this thing here? That is a gas tank for that boat. So sometime over the next couple of nights, I got to get that mounted back in there, as well as that motorboat down, and then start sorting out the wiring. It shouldn't take too long. I just got to get my buddy Mike, British Mike, down here to give me a hand, because he is actually the expert with wooden boats. I'm starting to take some of that stuff on now because he doesn't service those clients anymore, and having a shop with a bridge crane makes it a big help in trying to iron our motors or drivetrains in these big old boats. So as you can see, the shop has come along quite well. It's pretty much finally set the way I want it set up. I mean, this bench is now over here. The cage that was over in this area, completing the tool crib, a section was taken out by a previous tenant, so it really couldn't be secured anymore. I took the 3 sections that were on it to gate the front door. This keeps my puppy dogs from getting out, or anybody from getting too frightened of my big boy, Thor, when the people come into the shop. Well, alrighty, I'm not certain what else I can show you today. I mean, I've got a ton of other bikes and little projects, like a 175 two-stroke, a Honda XL75 that's got to go all back together. And then I'm hoping to have some of these projects done so I can sell them, so I can eat. There's a whole eating thing coming back again. Damn it. I can't just plug my ass into a fucking wall so I can recharge. Wish I could do that. Save me a little bit of time, but then I'd miss out on things like Thanksgiving dinner. And by the way, 2 days of cooking for 10 minutes eating, totally worth it when you take into account leftovers. All right, and that might be one video we'll do in the future. Take you into my kitchen, set up the camera, and I will show people how to make my famous cookies. I am the Mad Dr. Robert. This is my laboratory. And, well, YouTube, have yourself a great holiday weekend. I'll be posting this in a few minutes, so c'est la vie.